Hello and welcome to another Stamp with Amy K Facebook Live. And I'm just refreshing my computer screen quickly to make sure that I'm live out in the right place. And just checking to make sure that I can see your comments as well. So thanks so much if you are joining today live. That is awesome. If you're watching the replay, that is fantastic too. I appreciate you all being here and checking out my project today. So I had a little fun and played with one of the newer stamp sets, or one of the new stamps. Hey Mary, glad you're here. I see Connie's here as well, so thanks for joining. So this is one of the new stamp sets from the annual catalog, and it's definitely another fun one. So I see Karen is here as well, so and Nancy, so thanks for joining today. I appreciate you guys being here. So this is a fun new stamp set, another one of those where you can kind of create a little beach scene or a sunset scene or whatever you want to do with this one. So a good stamp set, again, from the new annual catalog, and it's simply called Sending Sunshine. It's got some good sentiments in it, which I do love, the kind of mixed font sentiments like they have in here. And then it's got some really nice images for layering and for stamping water and sunset scenes. So hey, Akiko, I'm glad you're here and glad that you like my card too. So, oh, and you just got the stamp set, Nancy. Good. I'm glad your order showed up, and that hopefully you'll have fun playing with this as well. So hey, Karen, I see Karen and Karen are both here, and Rosie's here as well, and Lori. So thanks so much for joining. So all right, so let's get moving on the card so that I don't spend all day here with you. Well, not that I mind spending all day here with you, but I'm sure you guys have better stuff to do. So a couple things that I used here on the card. I used the stitched nested labels dies, and these are carryover items. They're in the annual catalog again, and I used the largest of the dies to cut out around the image that I stamped here. And then, believe it or not, oops, I banged into my light. So we are doing a little masking to do the sponging on the background of this little beach scene here. And this button die fit perfectly over the little sun image so that I could mask it off, because I was trying to figure out, my cutting skills are not, hey Patricia, glad that you're here, and Barbara as well. So my cutting skills are, as you know, a little lacking in the fussy cutting. Fussy cutting. I hate doing it, and I'm not very good at it. So it was like a little happy find that this button die fits perfectly over the top of that sun image. So I used this on a Post-it note to cut out a little circle to layer over the top of the sun, so that when I did my sponging over it, I didn't have a blue sun. So that's my little, I always try to give you a little tip of the day. So that is my tip of the day. If you want to do a little sponging and you're like me and can't cut even a little tiny half circle very well, get that little die set out, which is the all dressed up dies, if I didn't say that. So that's one of the carryover sets as well. And it fits perfectly over top of the little sun. So, all right, before we get started on the actual stamping in the card, I did want to remind you about a couple of things. The first one is, if you are interested in joining Stampin' Up! As a demonstrator, right now is an absolutely awesome time to do that. We would love to have you join the team with us, and love to have you be a demonstrator. So it is, hey Kay, I'm glad you're here. So just like a Girl Scout using the resources wisely, yeah, that's it. My thought exactly. So hey Karen, I'm glad that you like the sunset themes, and I see, thank you very much, Kay, I appreciate that. So, okay. So the Pick a Bundle promotion, which is going on right now, if you are not a demonstrator and are interested in joining, you can get your starter kit for $99 plus tax, if that applies to you. And it ships for free, which is an awesome deal in itself. You get to pick $125 worth of Stampin' Up! Merchandise, so that's the normal kit. Right now, during the month of June, Stampin' Up! Is an extra bonus they're adding on. You get to pick a free bundle of your choice from the new catalog. So any of either the Stamp and Die bundles or Stamp and Punch bundles, you get to add on for free with your starter kit. So it is a great deal. Once you join as a demonstrator, you get at least a 20% discount on all your orders, even if you only order for yourself. And you're also, we get to see the new, what used to be the holiday catalog. It is now the August to December 2020 mini catalog, which is a lot more words than holiday catalog. But demonstrators get to see that tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern time, which is, or maybe it's 3 o'clock Eastern time, I'm sorry. So tomorrow afternoon, anyway, we get to see it. So that's awesome. And an added little bonus if you're a demonstrator. We also get to start our pre-ordering in July, and customers don't get to start ordering until August 4th. So So there's that too. So let me know if you have questions about joining. We'd love to have you join the team with us. And if you are interested in placing an order, now is a good time to order as well. So hey, Jeanette, I'm glad you're here. So Stampin' Up! Has a great bonus going on right now where if you purchase purchase $250 or greater in a single order, or you have a little workshop or party with the merchandise total of $250 or greater, you get 25 in additional free Stampin' rewards from Stampin' Up! So it's a great deal. So let me know if you have questions about any of that stuff. And again, I'm happy to chat with you about it. So hey, Jean, I'm glad you're here from North Dakota. And Karen, you're watching at work. I won't tell anybody, I promise. So, hey, Heather, glad you're here as well. All right, so let us get to moving on some stamping here. I started and did a little bit of pre-cutting ahead so that you didn't have to sit and watch me do all of this. This is a piece of the Artistry Blooms Designer Series paper, which is a 12 by 12 pack. The other side of it is also pretty, but didn't quite coordinate with the colors that I was going for and the sunset theme that I was doing, or sunrise. I don't know. I haven't decided if it's sunrise or sunset, but it can be either one. Probably more sunrise since it's a little lighter, but whatever. So I have a pool party card base cut to 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. This design will also work just as well with a regular book fold card, which would be 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 cardstock, scored at 4 1/4. So same thing will work, like I said, for either one of these, using a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue to adhere a piece of Designer Series paper. Again, it's from the Artistry Blooms Designer Series paper pack. And the paper is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it should fit perfectly onto the card front as long as I get everything lined up straight, which sometimes I struggle a little bit with. So that's why the green glue is definitely a nice little bonus for sticking on the larger pieces of designer paper and cardstock like that, so you got a little bit of wiggle room. So, whoop. Yeah. Oh, the mini catalog goes live while you're working. Oh, that's such a bummer, Karen. Oh, man. Well, you'll maybe, yeah, well, you won't crash the internet, I guess. So, you can always go home later and watch it. Or if you should happen to have your phone fall onto the demonstrator page while you're working, you may be able to catch a glimpse of it there too. So you could always try that. All right, so I am using a little bit of linen thread and wrapping it around the card front 3 times, and I'm going to tie a little bow here, hopefully, that's as she says. I usually, like I said, I can usually do these pretty well off camera, and then I get on camera and it's like I've got 12 thumbs. So sometimes I can get them done easily, and sometimes it's a wrestling match. So, and as always, my tip for anytime you're going to be tying a bow is to always way oversize, cut like way more than you think you will. Because it's so much easier to trim off the excess than it is to try to make the ribbon grow longer. I have not yet figured out that trick of how you make the ribbon grow longer, or the twine, or whatever it is that you're working with. So always do a little bit of oversized cutting. It's easier to manage and handle and all that stuff. So, all right. So we've got the twine here wrapped around the card front, and I probably should scoot that down just a little bit. All right. The last catalog, Jamie was giving you hints while you were working. Yeah, but that's not as much fun as being able to see it yourself. So, all right. So the next thing that I did was a little bit of stamping, and I've got Pool Party ink and a couple of the images from the Sending Sunshine stamp set. So again, Pool Party ink I'm going to use to stamp the water. I'm going to ink it up first, stamp it on scrap paper, and then stamp it on the panel, just because I didn't want it to be too dark. That was, I was afraid it was going to get to be really too much if I did it straight ink. So I figured stamped off would be better, especially since I was going to be doing a little bit of layering with the inking. And since we're going to be die cutting this, you don't need to worry about it being perfectly straight and level and all that sort of thing. As you're stamping it, try to get it close, but you don't need to necessarily be like spot on with it. And then I'm going to stamp off. This is the second of the little water images, and I'm going to again try to get this lined up. I got to scoot it down a little bit so that hopefully I can see where the line is on it, and not have to look through the camera. And then I'll hold my breath and hope that I did it right. If not, we'll flip it to the other side. Pretty close. probably should flip it over and try it again, because that's a little bit more off than I like it to be. And if I don't get it right this time, we're just going with it. So, like I said, it's not that hard to do when you're by yourself. And, you know, I stamped it the first time and it came out perfectly. And of course now with the camera and you all here, of course it's like, oh, well, yeah, no, that's not going to work out quite as well. But that's the good thing about paper. We've got two sides. So hopefully this one will be good. That's better. All right. So yay, you know, I can hear the crowd cheering already. So, okay, so we've got the background stamped here. Next thing we're going to use is a little bit of Daffodil Delight ink, and I'm going to add the little sun image on it. So, all right. The little thing to notice on here is, I don't know if you can see, the sun is a little more solid up on the top, and then there's an empty line, and then it becomes sort of like watery looking on the sun. So the line, you want to line up the line that doesn't have ink on it with your horizon line on your water, she says as she's stamping it, so that hopefully you'll end up with that sort of a look, so that it's sort of a line all the way across. All right. Yeah, I see you all cheering for me now. So, oh, all right. Okay, so next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, I probably should have left that open. I'm going to go ahead and put my masks down. Here's my little button mask that I have that I'd cut ahead of time to cover up the sun image. And then I've got just a straight Post-it note that I'm going to place over the top of the water image, because it's probably not such a big deal to put it over the water image, but I didn't necessarily want the water to get darker in kind of splotchy places like it might. It has the potential to when you're using a sponge brayer to go over the top of it. And we're just going to sponge on a little bit of Pool Party ink, and all that you do is with the sponge brayer is just roll it a couple times across the ink pad, and then you want to do a little quick test on some scrap paper before you go straight to your project so that you don't end up with like a big glob of ink. And then we're just going to roll it over the top. And it does take a few times of rolling it over to get the color probably that you're wanting. So just go back to your ink pad, roll it on the scrap paper, and then roll it back over the top again. And again, I always try to remember to go to the scrap paper first, just because sometimes you can end up with kind of a dark spot or a glob of ink that you don't necessarily want or like the look of. When you're doing any kind of sponging, you always want to go to your scrap paper first, even if you're using just a regular sponge and not a sponge brayer. I find that it works best if I go onto the scrap paper first to make sure I don't have any dark globs, and then go back to the original project and start adding the color. And again, with sponging, one thing you can always do is add more color. One thing you cannot do, or at least I haven't figured out how to do, is take the color away. So it's always best to start with a little lighter hand on the color and then go towards darker than it is. If you start with it really dark, then you kind of end up with it's too dark, and that's all there is to it. So, all right, so there we are. We've got the background sponged. The next thing that I did was added a little bit with a sponge dauber. So I took a little dauber this time with Daffodil Delight ink, tapped it on the Daffodil Delight ink pad, I guess I already said that, and then just kind of went around and sponged out a little bit around the sun just to add a little bit kind of that glow look. Not a lot, just a little bit of ink around it, and that's all I added to the sun. The next thing that I did was the die cutting part of it. So again, I'm using the largest of the stitched nested labels dies. The reason I did the die cutting first was because I needed to know where the die cut was going to end before I could stamp my sentiment on it and stamp the branches from the tree on it. So that was kind of my reason and my thinking of doing it this way around rather than stamping everything and then die cutting it. So again, it doesn't necessarily matter. It doesn't need to be stamped perfectly straight because your die cut can correct it. You can move it to whatever angle you need it to be if you didn't stamp it exactly straight on the paper. So, all right, so let me wheel over here and do a little bit of die cutting. Hopefully y'all are having a great Tuesday. It's been a little warm here in New Jersey. Not terrible, but definitely a little bit warm. My older one is doing an online camp, which is a little weird, but she seems to be liking it pretty well. And my younger one is done with school for the moment, so she's going to have some summer class work to get done, but as of right now, she's on vacation, which she is loving that, and I am too. So no schoolwork to get done. So, all right, so there we have the die cut image. The next thing I'm going to do is ink up the sentiment. And again, this is from the Sending Sunshine stamp set, and I've got Coastal Cabana ink. And just going to stamp it right on the bottom of my die cut down here. And hopefully stamp it straight. All right, I think I got it pretty well. Then the next thing that I did was added in the little branch image, which again is from the Sending Sunshine stamp set, and I stamped it in Granny Apple Green ink a couple of times here. This is one of those distinctive stamps, so there's a little bit of color variation in it. And probably need to add a little more ink to that. All right, hopefully. And then I just sort of stamped it over the edge to make it look like there was a little, you know, palm tree swaying in the breeze here. That was my goal with stamping it sort of up and across the top of the little die cut panel, was just to give it that look like you were looking through a palm tree out into the water. So, all right, the next thing that I did was took this is a little tiny cloud image from the Sending Sunshine stamp set and Pool Party ink. And I'm sure you can barely see it on the card, but I stamped it 3 times actually. I inked it up, stamped it off, and then stamped it on the card front 3 times. So that just to give it a little bit of, again, just a little kind of color variety, something else to look at in the background. All right, so that is all for that. And I just stuck my finger in the ink, so I do need to wipe it on my pants quick before I end up sticking ink all over someplace that I don't want it. All right, so we are ready to go ahead and adhere this onto the card front, just using Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm glad you're liking this stamp set too. And oh, thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that. Has my younger one been loving the pool? Yes, she has. She spends pretty much almost every evening out there in it for a couple of hours. She would stay in the pool as long as I let her. If I let her stay out there all evening, she would be out there all evening. But yes, she's been loving the pool. So, and I have 2. Actually, I know that Karen has been here, so she knows. But it's definitely my office walks right out onto the deck of the pool, so it's nice because I can actually, if I need to be inside working, I can be inside working and still, you know, she can be out in the pool doing her thing and I can be in here, and it's awesome. So definitely love it. All right, so let's get this on the card front. Then the last thing that I added to the card front was some of the Playing with Patterns resin dots, and I know these are technically supposed to be crushed curry, but with a little tiny bit of Daffodil Delight on here, I figured that I was close enough to the color on it that I wasn't going to worry about that these were technically crushed curry and that I was using Daffodil Delight. I figured yellow was yellow when it came to that. So, all right, let me get a couple of these stuck here on the card front, and then we will call it good and work on the inside of the card. So, all right, so just added a couple of the little resin dots, and that's it for the card front. So you're liking the stamp set? I'm glad. So the Craft Room from Heaven, I honestly, I got so lucky. This is like the best room in the house. I don't know how I ended up with it. This was supposed to be a guest bedroom, and somehow I commandeered it for my office, and I have not asked any questions, and I'm not looking back, and I'm not saying, gee, maybe we should. Nope, this is my office. So it is a nice little bonus. So, all right, so to the inside of the card, I just did a little stamping of a sentiment with Coastal Cabana ink on the inside. And I know that my husband is really regretting giving me this office now that he's been working from home, you know, pretty much full time since this whole crazy Corona thing started. So yeah, I think he's wishing that he was down here instead of upstairs, sort of in the up in the master bedroom areas where his office is at. So yeah, I definitely got lucky and got the good office in the house. So, and then I'm stamping the little branch image here a couple of times in Granny Apple Green ink to finish up the inside of the card. And then a little Stampin' Seal. I think I've got the sticky started. And again, as you're using the Stampin' Seal, it's taken me a little minute to get used to it, but it doesn't need a real heavy hand on it, so it's kind of a light touch. And then just remember that trick to kind of flip it back and snap the adhesive, and it will continue to roll on perfectly. So, and then if you do end up with it getting back down in here where the sticky part is not up at the end of it, just use your finger to roll it forward, and it works great. It's such a good, strong adhesive. I really, really, really am liking it. So, but again, it took me a minute to kind of get used to it. it's a little different than snail was, which I was used to using. But now that I've kind of figured it out and figured out how to use it, I love it. So, all right. Adhering that to the inside of the card, and then I'm going to do a quick crease with a bone folder on here, and we will be done for today. So, well, I'm glad that it helped you with the sponging, because like I said, the sponging, the main trick or main tip that I can tell you on it is to make sure that you start off your project with your sponging and then come on to the project, because I can tell you every time that I have gone straight from the ink pad to my project, then is when I end up with a big glob of ink that that I don't like and I'm unhappy about. So, all right, so that is all that I have got for the card today. So thanks so much for joining, and I'm glad that you like the card and the stamp set, Karen. It's a good one. So again, it's called Sending Sunshine, and it's in the new annual catalog, so definitely take a look at it if you haven't seen it. Let me know if you have any questions about anything. I appreciate you all spending part of your Tuesday with me. I will plan to be back on Friday on YouTube Live and back here again on Facebook Live next week, Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time for both of those events. So I will plan to see you guys then, and have a great rest of your day and a wonderful week, and we will see you soon.